Hello everyone, Zellerant here, and for today's video on Girls Frontline 2, we have the next T-Doll to be coming out, that is Lewis. And so I know I'm a little bit behind on this, but Lewis has been announced next, which is kind of more shaking up of the order for us on the global side, as we had a couple others that had come out before her that we don't have yet, like Void Mastina, as well as Lainey. But Lewis is going to be a great T-Doll to get, as she's going to be another unit going in right into the burn team. Now, we already have basically a full burn team at this point, so you're going to have to kind of mix and match how you want to pair her or who you might want to have to drop within the team. But overall, she fits quite cleanly in there, as well as being able to fit in other teams depending on how much investment you go ahead and put into her. And so that we're just going to go ahead and take a quick look at her kit here with the English translations. I'm kind of trying to move away from using the spreadsheet, which I've used on past ones. Because the videos can be a lot more time consuming, but we will go and talk a little bit about the dupes here at the end and kind of how many pulls you want to go into investing on her if she's one that you really want to pull a lot into, because she does quite well with a lot of investment, not only just in the burn team, but other teams as well. But first, let's just go ahead and take a look at her kit. So we'll just start with the passive like I always do, and so we'll kind of go read through it and then we'll kind of discuss on how she works when we get to the end. So at the start of the battle, Lewis gains thermal conduction, consumes all the confectants index, and then selects multiple of the closest allied burn dolls. So this is kind of key to having her in the burn team there, excluding herself, and then attaches the tin soldier to them. And so thermal conduction that she gets is accumulates searing flame to charge up. Once searing flame points reach a certain amount, consumes all of them to grant the buff amber to all your allies. And Searing Flame are just the charges that you accumulate there over time. And so now you have this little tin soldier that's going to be on them. And then when those T-Dolls with the tin soldier deal burn damage with their active skills or basic attacks, and this is where I think it's going to be you can use it within other teams, but you're going to have to be very specific on the keys that they have so that you can trigger these actions for the tin soldier. But when they do that, Lewis commands the tin soldier to perform volley fire on the damaged target, as well as gaining Searing Flame and Confectants Index. When such units deal burn damage, they gain merit, which is basically a way that the tin soldier can kind of level up and do more damage. And then at the end of the round, these units consume the merit and stacks to increase rank of their level, their tin soldier. So that's kind of the basic passive. It's all kind of tied to these little tin soldiers that you're attaching to your ally T-Dolls. Now, when it comes to her actual skills, you have basic attack. Nothing really tied specific to the basic attack like you might see with other T-Dolls. You have her first skill here, Bad Guy Cleanup. Deals AoE burn damage and applies Overburn to all enemy targets in the selected direction. If you remember, Overburn is that main skill that is used to trigger a lot of things within the burn team. It's going to be definitely key to certain combinations and with how she works within other teams as well. And then you have Surprising Fun Ball. Deals burn damage to the selected enemy target and fixed damage to both the target and the enemy targets within certain tiles of it. Lewis gains Tin Soldier's Order, which increases the damage dealt when performing Volley Fire. And so Volley Fire from the Tin Soldier deals targeted burn damage that ignores cover and stability damage to the target. In each rank of veterancy increases the damage multiplier, cannot be triggered by support attacks, interceptions, or counterattacks. And so that is just dealing with those tin soldiers getting ranks, because bulk of the damage is coming from those volleys that they do. Then you have the final one, her ultimate Toy Carnival. Deals burn damage to the selected enemy target. Each tin soldier on the field increases the damage dealt in critical rate of this attack based on their veterancy ranks. And that's going to be where you're basically another way to trigger them doing attacks. And it kind of explains what the veterancy provides extra benefits to Lewis based on their veterancy. Higher ranks include all the effects of the lower ranks. The effects can be stacked. So rank 1 burn damage dealt by Lewis is increased. Rank 2 burn damage dealt by Lewis is increased. And her critical rate is increased. And then rank 3 finally, before Lewis attacks an enemy target with her ultimate skill, Toy Carnival, performs one instance of Volley Fire, which is another attack command that does not count against the maximum of uses or recover confectants index. So it's just like an additional attack of it through her ultimate. And so overall, that is her kit. It's kind of straightforward in that sense, but there's a lot of complexities to it. And maybe we'll go ahead, I'll showcase it a little bit more when she actually drops, since I think I have every T-Doll in the game now, since I pulled the ones I had originally skipped at this point, and I can try and build her around testing with other teams. Now, I am not planning on pulling for heavy dupes on her at this point, because I'm actually kind of reserving my pulls for Void Mastina in that aspect. But she does have a lot of value in her dupes here. Now, I've kind of moved away from going over the dupes here with the CN translations, but we can kind of take a look at the pull priorities for them, depending on how much damage you want to do with them. And we'll talk actually about them more so when she actually drops on Thursday after I pull for her, since I will be pulling for her. But I will not be going heavily into the dupes, but she is one that is very strong. So right off the bat, you have the priorities are V0, then the next stopping point being V2. After that, you can get her weapon, pushing up to V3, and then ultimately V6 if you really want to use her. And that is actually where she can kind of start shifting into doing a lot of damage within other teams. So V0, small generation of embers, provides good damage for V0 character and single target attacks to proc UJ attacks. But right now, if you just get her, she's going to fit right into the burn team, but that's pretty much where she stays in the burn team at that point. V2 is making it where now her rotation, she can ult more often, and as you can already knew, the ult provided her extra volleys from her little tin soldiers, so she deals more with them. They call it salvo on their side, and then you have more embers, which then helps get stacks for Chawa. So Chawa's still going to be an important member into the burn teams. Like I said, you're going to have to kind of utilize it like a puzzle on which one you're going to want to fit in there. If you're not needing any heals at all, this is where Cinerisi's probably the one you drop. You just go full on damage. If you need a little bit of heals, it'd be maybe, I think, Sharkery or something you might have to drop. Just know we're starting to have to kind of, as we're getting more T-Dolls, as we have full teams, somebody's starting to have to drop. But we're also starting to see some interplay as well with some of the elements, which you'll kind of see further down here. More damage if you get her weapon after that point on R1. And then if we go all the way to V3 after V2, changes the Fumo command buff, or the 10 commander buff, making it work on turns instead of attack count. This improves the damage a lot, and that's going to be pretty significant. And so by going through turns, there's the point of where buffs on that, how they last, will depend how many turns you have, which means the entire turn, versus how many times they do an attack. And so there's been some dolls in the past where their buff is not all that. It might look strong on paper, but it doesn't last long enough because of their attack count. But if it lasts turns, it means that entire turn, it doesn't matter how many times they attack, which with the burn team, they attack a lot themselves, constant back and forth with those support actions. That will be a significant damage increase with it there. And then V6 will change how often Lewis will use her attacks from the ranks of the 10 soldiers, and that'll make it where now she'll get an additional one every single turn. And this contributes to this is why I'm trying to avoid using the CN translations versus the English ones, because they have different terms. But making the buff come a lot sooner, and it will spike her damage quite a bit at V6. I just don't know. She's going to do a lot more damage at V6. Significant. And then they kind of have a note here, and this is where if you really like her, V6 will be maybe the direction you want to go if you're willing to invest a lot of pulls in one. And that is because on the CN side, they found that she was used quite a lot because she's a less dependent on the buffs from the fire team and basically can hold her own. Think of it kind of like how Blue Kai kind of could just go into any team as just a generic AoE, and she just does a lot of damage by herself. Kind of the same thing right there. And they said she kind of brought back the water. As you know, power creep's been kind of moving up through this game. And Hydra was one of the top ones alongside Corrosion, but we're slowly seeing that has kind of shifted as new T-Dolls come up. Fully expect another Hydra unit to come out that's just going to re-elevate them. So, but you can know that she will be able to fit right in there. She has a nice synergy with the Springfield, Tololo, and Nikita team. But as I say, you need a very specific set of keys to make it work. We have keys that, as I've talked about in the past, can kind of trigger different conditions, whether even if they're outside of the element of it, because there's common keys that have little things like, just one example being, I believe, like Lena's has one that can use her electric paralyze skill, but it counts as that type and can be used to trigger by anybody, basically, alongside with her weapon. Kind of the same thing there, except you're going to have to use common keys to make it work. And then you can use like a mixed team. So it just gives her, just to kind of take a point, is V6 allows her to be more mobile within other teams, because she can kind of stand her own at that point. And heard a lot of good things on her from the CN side. Very, very strong. If you're somebody that's looking for another strong one, I know Void Mask Tina, which I've talked about in the past, is going to be like the next big, like Klukai level V6. I've heard Lewis is pretty much at the same levels at V6, just not as generic. But yeah, that's pretty much it for her and her kit. Like I said, I'm kind of cutting back and going really into depth into them just because I have not had the time. I still plan to try and make another video on the latest ones that have come out here, but there's been like another 4 since I covered Lewis last time. But yeah, on Thursday I'll plan to pull her and we'll kind of mess around with her and take a look at her entire kit with the actual translations at that point. But that's it for now, and if you like my content, if you can like, comment, subscribe, it really helps, and thanks for watching.